It's Senrall studio time, boys. We here in the studio, and I am here to show you beginners how to make an epic dubstep growl based on my what I call the growl theory. It's basically a bunch of steps that I take to start making a growl. Notice I said start, because if you do this like every single time and you like stick with the formula every single time, it's just gonna sound the same and all your stuff will sound really boring and it'll be bad and all that kind of stuff, and you won't grow as a producer. But this is like a good starting point, I think, that helped me make my growls sound better and like sound like a growl. This is the first example, and then I'm gonna make one from scratch. This is how the first example is gonna sound like. So yes, this is the growl for the first example. I'm also going to be going over like a bunch of little things that I thought I knew but I actually didn't, because this didn't come easy. Like I didn't do like years of experience or whatever, but you know, this didn't come easy. The knowledge that I have, the main ways that I got this knowledge of making basses and growls and all that came from watching so much YouTube and experimenting on my own. I watched all of Crow's videos, I watched all of Dylan Tallchie's videos, I watched as many videos as I could. I found every single Virtual Riot tutorial, anything that I could to help figure out this whole sound design thing. So basically, the first thing that I always do is I get any sort of sound, any wavetable. It doesn't matter which one. People think that you need a good wavetable in order to make a good sound in Serum, but you can get a terrible wavetable and just use it and it'll be fine. But they do help with the sound, so like still be a little bit picky on your wavetables. But I grab a wavetable, maybe two. Like, we don't even need this second one here. Hold on, I gotta turn that off. We don't even need the second wavetable. It actually changes a lot about the sound. It just gives it a lot more character. But yeah, I get a wavetable, and usually the first thing that I do is take the LFO and put it on the level, so it automates the volume. And then I usually find a good place for the wavetable position and get a cool warp mode. You know, you gotta get those epic warp modes. And then like after I do that, I do the same thing with oscillator B or not. It matters how lazy I am. And after that, I usually get a high pass filter. Sometimes I go for band reject down here. Sometimes I do columns or reverb. Sometimes I go straight to flanges. But the high pass or the high notch is usually like the safest place to start, because it's so easy to make vowels out of these. Like if I pull up another Serum here and I put, yeah, that's cool skin. I usually just automatically just turn on the high pass and I turn up the resonance, and like immediately with the cutoff it'll make a cool little vowel type thing. And then the notch, I think of the notch as the darker, and the pass is like the lighter type of growl. I'll explain more when we're doing the from scratch thing. But yeah, in this case I wanted a darker sounding growl, so I made sure that the cutoff doesn't go too high, because the higher the cutoff, the less dark the sound will be, you know? And then the notch is really helping with this too. But yeah, and then the effects, you can definitely add more effects to this also. This isn't what every single serum patch will look like. The most important thing here is probably either the compressor or, yeah, just, it's no contest, it's the compressor. Like, even without the post-processing, it just sounds so much less powerful. And then usually I have distortion just for that extra bit of saturation. The hyperdimension actually helps with the sound. Just gives it that much, like, just gives it a little bit of grit, and then also makes it a little bit wider. And then the phaser is actually a big part in the voweling as well. The phase section, the phaser, actually took me a little while to understand, despite watching so many videos that use it. I'll probably explain it a little bit more while I'm doing the thing. The thing. It's all about the visual way that I do it personally. I didn't pay attention that much to like the intricacies of I need this much in order to get this exact sound. I need to get this percentage to go over here, and then that'll automatically create my sound. No. I just sit there and I look at it, and I know that over here it's gonna be a little bit darker and cleaner, and from there I just do it until I think it sounds good. And then this EQ here is actually a big part of it too, because it's contributing to the vowel as well. Essentially with the whole EQ thing, sometimes I make it match the first filter as much as possible without it being like exactly the same, but also sometimes I like to do that, or like just do a little bit of variation. For this particular sound I just like this. And then that's basically all I have to explain about this. Oh, also the noise just adds a little bit of high end for it. And then another part of the whole growl thing, if you have the same exact sound over and over and over again, it's gonna be a little bit boring and repetitive. So I like to either do pitch. Usually the pitch down here in Serum is like, I usually put it up to 12 and down 12. And that's usually a pretty safe way of doing it. Like, no one else does anything else. They usually like leave it at 2 sometimes. That's fine. But also I like to use the macros to make variations. Like I said earlier, when the filter cutoff is higher, it'll basically make it a higher vowel. I still don't know what to say about it, but I hope you know what I mean. So I use that to make some variations with the macros. With this macro, I moved this one up a little bit, and I also moved this one up a little bit. And something as small as that can really change your sound. The thing about basses is that there are so many things happening, and they're so intricate because there's a lot of modulation and stuff happening at once, and it just makes these super complicated sounds. And you can make a complicated sound even more complicated with changes that you can make over time. with the macros and sometimes even the pitch. So another thing that I kind of didn't know when I was first watching a bunch of tutorials about basses and all that kind of stuff is post-processing is never going to be the same for anything. Maybe some of you already know this, but probably not. It's just something that I think I have to mention because I honestly didn't think about this until I started trying to make my own stuff, and then it just sounded kind of off because I just copied some people's post-processing for a certain bass. Sometimes you'll need less post-processing, sometimes you'll need a lot of post-processing. I tried to make my post here a little bit simple, but it's basically making it bigger and sounding more thick. So I have an OTT, obviously. You need OTT. That's the only thing that you're always gonna need. OTT. Get OTT. It's free, get it, and you'll automatically become a god. That's all you need. OTT. Get OTT. Usually I like to turn the time and the depth all the way down, and then turn the out gain up a little bit. The OTT is a big part of its like cleanness and like fatness. And then I have a Fruity Wave Shaper here that's making it a little bit louder and a little bit more saturated. This is usually something that I always do with every single one of my with all of my posts, is I just take it, like this is its default. I usually take it and I rise it till about like here or there, or however loud I need it. It's not always going to be the same. And then the EQs are always going to be different. It's going to be a little bit hard to explain like EQing in general. But basically with the EQ, you want to take out the sub, unless you want to have your own sub, which is fine, but you might want to be careful about that. So yeah, you take out the sub, and then there's always going to be some frequencies that you don't want in there, like this one right here, like at the end there. I put that down so you don't really hear that ending as much. And then this one right here is actually making the vowel a little bit more, you know, louder. And then this one right here is just doing nothing. And then where is it? This one. It's also helping the vowel a little bit. And then I have this one right here, which is taking down the you know, everyone's favorite frequencies. That's about it for the EQing. The EQ is a lot of complicated stuff. I don't even fully understand the EQ, but I know it sounds good. That's like the main thing with anything, is you gotta know what sounds good when you're making stuff. You gotta be like, oh, that sounds cool, that sounds nice, and then put it in. And then if it sounds cool to you, then that's all we really need. That's like the perfect thing. So enough about this patch. I'm gonna show you my process in making basses from scratch. So usually you get the serum open. So this is like the initial patch right here, and we're gonna start making a bass in 3. Let's go. So usually I go through here. I'm gonna actually use the default wavetables, because I don't know if anyone here has any packs, but the best default wavetables are gonna be in spectral. 3CMS4 is fine. I kind of like that, so I'm gonna put this on that. Put this like this. Maybe that'll sound nice. You really gotta. The thing about Serum is all the visuals really help with making your sound. So this seems like a good shape. I like that shape. Then I go through here. I actually kind of like that. It's all about experimentation. And then I'm gonna get my high notch. I'm thinking another darker sound. And put the notch down here. Usually with the filter, you want the whole thing, you know, this, you know, that thing going past each other. Compressor automatically makes it sound a lot better. And then usually I go through the distortion. Yeah, that sounds amazing. We can actually be a little creative with this one. This distortion isn't always going to be for saturation and distortion, but it can also be a really big part in your sound. You just gotta find what sounds cool to you. Now the phaser, I automatically put the rate down, and then usually I do this and then bring it down. And then the frequency, I usually grab that, do that, and then I kind of like that. I'm not going to touch the feedback. And then you want to mix it in, usually. I like the feeling of the hyperdimension there. Maybe put that under the phaser, because it actually matters where you put your effects. It actually matters. Then I'm gonna put another high pass here. And then maybe do this. Usually when I do phaser filters, I usually put the resonance up. That sounds cool. If you want a cool sound, use the phasers. Use the phasers. And then usually I put noise here just to add some top end. And I'll put the sub here because why not? Make sure that if you're using the sub that you put the filter or the LFO on the level here too. Now it's time to add our variation. Maybe we can change where the wavetable is. Makes it add a little bit more grit. Put this up. Maybe put this down. And then put these up a little bit, both of them actually. It's a nice variation. Put the pitch on a 12 and -12. just because. And this is way too similar to the other one that I made, so I'm just gonna add a chorus. Because why not? And then I'm gonna put this in the mixer, and I'm immediately gonna put an OTT on it. And then it's all about finding what sounds good. Maybe I'll put Camel Crusher on this one. Mix down. You gotta know what your effects sound like. That's another thing. And now immediately I'm hearing frequencies that I don't want. Put another OTT here. Maybe. Yeah, okay. Screw the freaking thing. Alright, let's add our EQ. If you already have a sub, you're gonna take this sub down and just low pass it like that, or high pass, I don't know. I kind of like that. Sounds really punchy there, so I'm gonna bring that down. I don't want this. Bring that down. Maybe bring down the high end a little bit. And then that sounds right. Maybe add a little bit more wave shaping. And then bring the noise down because it's a little loud actually. Now, how similar is it to this? So that's about what I usually do when I make growls. I wouldn't recommend to do this every single time ever in your entire life, but it's definitely a good starting point, and you can usually go back and make some very cool creative changes to what you have, and you know, whatever sounds good is gonna be great. So that's the takeaway here. If you liked this video, make sure to, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to freaking fuck. Smash like, subscribe.
Told me so many